Serious, people with nightmare siblings. What's the most fucked up thing they ever did? Val Wiggin responded. My sister and I are 15 years apart. I was an accident, and her teenage self was super pissed I was born. She basically spent every waking moment of her teens being pissed I was alive, siphoning resources and attention away from her. She never paid me a moment's attention, and I remember her kicking me at the age of 19. Anyway, she moved out of my parents' house to get married at 24, and I was not allowed inside her new house for the next 2 years. When I finally got to visit the house, she turned her back and walked away from me when I crossed the threshold. I'll never forget it. Jacker494 responded. I'm seeing some pretty fucked up stuff on here, and my stories don't really compare, but I have a few things. For one, my older brother gets pissed really easily and once flipped over a glass table in our living room. Whole thing shattered and I cut my foot. Don't remember what he was mad about since I was only around 4 or 5, but he must have been in his early teens at that point. Parents replaced it with custom-fitted glass which was pretty expensive apparently. He also taped a knife to my parents' door once, which everyone assumed was a threat. He insisted he wasn't going to do anything, just wanted to scare them. He was at least 20 at the time. A lot of the other things I can think of are verbal, where he'll scream at people for tiny, insignificant things. He's rarely physically violent, it's just that he'll break your shit when you're not around and indirectly threaten you, ignore you for weeks at a time, etc. Everyone has to constantly walk on eggshells around him because of how explosive he is, and I can thank him for how sensitive and quiet. Living cake life responded. My brothers, half-brothers, they have the same father but I have a different father, are a bit older than me. One day they were both sitting on our dock fishing. The oldest brother picked up a knife out of the tackle box. They were about 12. It was a brand new knife of some kind specifically for killing or cooking fish or something. He looks at my other brother and goes, I wonder how sharp this knife is, and without hesitation he literally stabbed it into the top of the middle brother's thigh. Totally casual about it, like no big deal that the knife was in deep enough to stand upright by itself. The Great Catsby 36 responded. When I was maybe 6 or 7, my older sister, she was around 12 or 13 at the time, decided one day she wanted to see what the inside of a turtle's shell looked like. She had found a turtle in our backyard and took it up to our dad's shed where he had a little concrete slab in front of the doors to the shed. She started slamming the turtle down on the concrete until she cracked his shell open several times. Blood was everywhere. It died, of course. I can remember this is my first traumatic memory I have of my childhood. She told me she would kill me if I told our parents. I just recently told them and I'm now 31. I have no relationship with her at this point in my life. She needs a lot of help mentally but refuses treatment. Deleted responded. It's a toss-up really between 3 things my brother has done. A. Found out my brother and his wife were not separated and getting a divorce. Something he'd been telling the whole family for over a year and she knew nothing about until I inadvertently said something to her. B. His posting on Facebook that my mother had passed away just to get sympathy likes. She was sick, but not yet dead, and I had to wake up and handle the massive freakout from relatives and friends. He then claimed he hadn't known it would be taken that way even though people were sending him public condolences and talking about her in the past tense. C. Got confirmation from someone who knows him really well that he lied about having cancer at one point. Again, pretty sure that was for the sympathy and likes. There's a lot more and enough for a shit show times 10, but those are just the 3 biggest that impacted me and or I just can't forgive him for. He also lied about having hurt his back, so he couldn't come to our mother's funeral. Only 2 weeks later he posted photos of himself online holding his contractor's license bragging about the jobs he was doing. He's never answered me on what miracle operation or treatment did he get to cure his bad back so fast and hasn't spoken to me since that day. Nothing of value has been lost. Amalgamas responded. My brother is in prison for kidnapping, assault with a deadly weapon, evading arrest, attempted murder, possession of an illegal firearm, possession of a controlled substance, possession of a controlled substance with intent to distribute, manufacturing a controlled substance with intent to distribute, and as a cherry on top of the shit pile, rape. Here's the truly messed up thing, the rest of the family was surprised it wasn't worse. Edit. Alright, which one of you reported that I'm suicidal? I didn't even know that Reddit had an automated crisis support bot, lol. Billbappa Perazzi responded. He married a girl. Wedding had a lot of fuck US to our family in it, but aside from those, announced at the wedding, we're pregnant. Turned out, about 4 months at that point. They had the baby. 1 month later he announces, it's too much, She's a bitch, I can't take this, I'm leaving and going to move in with a friend from work. Turns out friend from work is 8 months pregnant at this point with his next kid. By some miracle he doesn't leave that girl when the baby is born, but gets her pregnant again, about as soon as is possible. I don't know if she wises up, or something else at that point, but baby mama number 2 kicks him out then. Now he lives in my parents' basement, refuses to drive an hour to see his kids cause what good is that? One of those kids he spent their first month of life with and has seen about a dozen times since, the second I think he spent the entire first, call it, 10 months of their life together till mommy was knocked up again and hasn't seen since, and the third he'd never seen. You/first girl in Mars responded. This wasn't a fucked up thing that my brother did to me personally, but I think it's worth mentioning. He and his, now ex-girlfriend had a super toxic relationship. I don't know the whole story as I was never close with her, and I don't trust my brother's account of things, but there was something my brother did once that made me decide, oh, he's not just a dick in a toxic relationship, he's a manipulative abuser. He had his friend text him pretending to be the girlfriend's best friend. They orchestrated this whole story in which the best friend came on to my brother, but he turned her down because he's loyal to his girl. He even went as far as to save his friend's contact info as the best friend's phone number. When he showed his girlfriend the texts, it obviously looked like her best friend sent them. She ultimately believed my brother over her best friend because the phone number doesn't lie. Also, my brother's a fantastic liar, so that helped. Anyway, they've been broken up for years now, and the ex-girlfriend and best friend still hate each other. They had been friends since they were 7. I haven't spoke to him since he stole money from me to buy weed and denied it until I threatened to file a police report. Last I heard, he's in a happy relationship. I wish that girl luck. You/toxic_force responded. I was maybe 8 or 9 when this happened. For context, my dad was deployed and my mom was working, so my brother had to babysit me. My brother was around 16 at the time. As soon as my mom left, he shoved me into a closet and locked me inside for 6 or so hours. I was scared of the dark and couldn't reach the light string. He didn't let me out to use the bathroom or eat anything, so I ended up going on myself and sitting in the dark until my mom came home. She told me that he was asleep in his room when she got home. Needless to say, I really fucking hate him. He's still an awful person by the way. You/deleted responded. Used my own child to hurt me. My parents would babysit my young son while I was working and my older, adult brother was there. He has always hated me and done everything in his power to hurt me because I was the baby of the family. My son was around 5-6 years old and I caught him verbally impressing onto my child ideas of weird sexual fetishes. Like he was trying to corrupt him mentally to hurt me. Removed him from that situation as soon as I figured out what he was doing. I hate my brother, he has always done mean things to me my whole life. I swear he's a sociopath. ETA, this happened over 20 years ago. You/I did it for keys responded. Can't decide which was worse, pretending to be pregnant, she was a teenager at the time, the night before my siblings' big school exam finals my 21st birthday, presumably because the attention wasn't on her, as a school dropout with no job at the time, or the time she stole my aunt's money and house after she died, then tried to claim that there was no money. The council took the house back because we owed a load of tax. My mother, massive enabler who has never said no to her in her life, finally admitted to signing some legal documents which allowed her to do all of this. My other siblings and I found bank statements afterwards. Scary thing is, I think she believes her own lies. You/nerdyburner responded. Dropped a dumbbell 20 pounds, on my face while I was laying on the couch breaking one of my front teeth and causing permanent jaw damage. Not to outdo himself, the same brother tried to stab me in the ribs with a homemade shiv causing significant injury a few years later. And he wonders why even decades later I want nothing to do with him. Edits for additional context. The first incident occurred when he was 7, the second when he was 14, they are just the highlights of a long series of dysfunctional psychopathic behavior. He did spend time in juvenile hall over the second incident. LVE had no contact with him as an adult, so L don't know his fate during the interval. We are several years apart, that's as much context as I'm willing to share. Thanks for the awards and the great questions. You/Space Chevalier responded. I've got nothing on some folks here, but she poisoned my cat, threw out all my food while I was selling my belongings on eBay to pay rent, because I was too fat and would use my things without asking, sometimes using all of my consumables and then saying to my wife, don't worry, he's got money. I really don't think she understood I was literally recycling bottles and cans to make rent, and she would steal the bill money I was saving for phone internet rent without a second thought and claim, to our landlord, I never paid her. The poisoning ended up being the last straw and we had to put him in an oxygen tent and he needed his stomach pumped, etc. When it was all said and done, we were out of pocket all of our savings, that we had recently started the home purchasing process and needed the cash to close. Instead, we couldn't afford closing costs, and we ended up forfeiting all the money we had put into the process before that point and had to deal with the broker wanting to sue us. So now I make it a point to never announce my visits to family. She's 60+ minutes away from most of them, so she doesn't have time to show up. If I see her car parked at the relative's house I'm visiting, I will just drive away rather than risk engaging with her again. You/Nosterat67 responded. My stepbrother falsely ID'd as me when he was busted driving recklessly on a motorcycle. He was on probation for drug charges at the time and didn't want to go to the slam. I missed a whole day off work going to court when I was informed by phone that there was a bench warrant for failure to appear. When I got to court and the ticketing officer saw me, he took me to a conference room where he described little bro to a T. I made sure he had the correct home address for the punk. After he was released from jail, I made sure he understood if he did it again he would walk crooked for the rest of his life. You/MomJeans111 responded. If I loved a toy, my older sister would purposely break it in some way. I had a Teddy Ruxpin and I loved it so much so she broke his mouth off. I loved porcelain dolls, she broke all the hands or feet off. I loved Barbies, she cut the hair or nose off or break a leg off. If I liked a stuffed animal, she would tear the eye off or its tail. When we got older, she would take my makeup and just mush the lipstick on my desk or snap the eyeliner so it cracked and couldn't be sharpened, or just tap the frigging eyeshadow upside down on my desk so it broke. I loved drawing and painting, so she would just take a Sharpie and hold it on the frigging paper until it bleed through every page. She didn't accidentally do this stuff either. She is 2 years older than me and she would just casually walk in, break stuff and then walk out of the room like nothing happened. When I got old enough to like boys, she would ask me who I liked and then tell me that boy liked her. Even if she didn't know the boy at all, she would just say he liked her. Later that advanced to her giving head to basically any guy Elle liked or that she thought I liked. She once gave a hand job to a guy in my science class simply because we were paired up for a project and she saw him being nice to me. I used to get my feelings hurt until I smartened up enough to tell her Elle liked my friend at the time's older brother Derek. Derek was 19 and had a prescription for Valtrax. You/Taran33 responded. Much older siblings here, specifically talking about my oldest brother. I was about 12 and parents were pretty deep in poverty, but he had serious wealth in the insurance industry. He offered to buy us a manufactured home, no strings attached. We accept, pick it out, move in, etc. Then he says, okay, your rent is this much, high rent for the area and something you would not move onto as a low-income family. Since we're already moved in and he holds the deed, we desperately scrape the barrel making the rent. When we can't do it anymore, eventually he puts the house up for sale. I'm 18 at this point. So parents move out of state to something they can afford and I'm left homeless. I'm good now though at 28. Bro has made a lot of good changes in his life, but I don't think I can ever forget this. You/Tutifnfruity responded. She tried to wreck the car with me and my other sister in it. I was 8 or 9. Toxic sister was 24. Took off yelling let's fucking wreck tonight, girls, because her ex-boyfriend wouldn't take her back. We were in his neighborhood. We were screaming, he came running to the stop sign, made her turn around, and snatched me and not crazy sis out the car. Called our parents to come get us and wouldn't let her near us. Coke and being some kind of narcissistic borderline psycho don't mix well, kids. When I grew up, she wound up fucking my ex. Now she lives with a boyfriend who isolates her and treats her like shit, and most of her teeth have fallen out from pills and other drugs. I moved 2,000 miles away. Funny how that worked out. You/Legacitiez responded. My sister stole my child's ADHD medication, causing him severe ramifications in school both academically and socially. She was emptying the capsules, so I had no idea I was giving my child empty pills. For a year. I'm a single parent, as in, my children have no dad, dad doesn't ever ask how they are or to see them, and I struggled with his behavior and punishments and nothing was working and I kept going back to his doctor and saying, see, it's not working, med increases. Random days, it would work. Then nothing again, because she couldn't steal all the contents of the pills in one swipe, so LD randomly give him a dose of a pill she missed. I was so confused and defeated, and so was my poor kid. You/Drachenfewer responded. Forced my father to work his regular job and then to spend months fixing up the upper floor on his house so she could move in with 3 kids after a messy divorce. She didn't get a job for a long time and finally did, but only part-time because she made more money picking up shifts. Never got any certifications even though the job paid for it. She was only sups to be there wrecking havoc until she got on her feet. Then until the eldest was at college, then the second, then the third. They finally had to have the sheriff evict her because she was having her drug dealer drop her joints at the house. Illegal here and hella illegal then. It would take hours to go into all the stuff she did to my parents, but the worst is what she did to her kids. She made all of them get jobs. Eldest was able to at 15, by 16 because she needed money to pay my parents' rent and utilities. The eldest worked 20 hours a week while in high school minimum, for example, although it was usually more. Thing is, my dad never charged her rent and paid for all the utilities. She made the kids work while in school to get money from them that they thought was going to the household. It didn't. We are still not sure exactly where it all went. U/Phoenix Frost responded. Oldest brother went to prison for a string of non-violent crimes, mostly robberies. This was a long time ago and he's much better now. He's a loving father of 2, husband, okay-ish brother, very demanding, but coming up he was a bit of a nightmare. It was me and 2 older brothers. The oldest brother watched over us a lot because our parents had to work. Oldest brother forced my other brother to be his slave basically, cooking and cleaning for him non-stop. If he refused, my brother beat the living shit out of him. Since I was the youngest, my oldest brother found me annoying. My bedroom door for some reason locked from the outside, so every day when I got home, from my earliest memory until around 10, one was locked in my room. He would then tell me if I said anything to my parents, he'd beat my ass, and just lock me in my room again. I told my parents every day, and every day he beat my ass, and locked me back in my room. My parents never did anything or even fixed the lock. We were extremely poor, so I just assumed they had bigger things to deal with, like how we're going to eat or afford rent. Spending your developing years alone in a bedroom with nothing to do and a bad case of ADHD should have been extremely damaging, but thankfully I'm pretty normal. Not a horrible story, by any means, or as compared to most others here, but still felt like sharing. U/Reador responded. My sister told her son that she would buy him a PS4 if he could find a used one around $200. Kid worked hard to find a system at $200, which was a bit of work because of the PS5 shortage increasing the PS4 price. Finally got someone to agree to $200 flat and sister said she'd get it done for him. About a week later sister told her son that the seller scammed her and not only would he not be getting the PS4 but since it was his fault they got scammed he now owed her the money for not seeing it coming or some shit. Sister never pays for the kids' phone plans, she has them on a different plan so she can miss the payment and her own phone won't be shut off lol. So when my nephew told me about it I had him give me a call on her phone and check the messages. Seller contacted every day for 4 days asking shit like dude I want you to have this thing but you need to respond. I just think of my sister sitting around reading that shit and still coming up with this bullshit to try and steal money from a preteen. U/Vast Butterscotch 42 responded. I don't know why this even happened, but when I was 8, I was hit by a car because of my sibling. She said we were allowed out when she never even asked anyone if we could, and she was pushing me down the driveway as I got hit. I kept dying on the way to hospital, had fractures in my skull, knee degloved to the bone, and other issues. Instead of being sorry for what happened, she was jealous that I was getting attention after nearly dying, and repeatedly told me to jump on front of another car and kill myself every day and she conned my brother into treating me the same way. So for years I suffered from her bullshit instead of trying to heal and learning to deal with this chronic pain I now suffer from every day. She also done tons of other fucked up shit to me over the years, but this incident changed me forever and I can't forgive someone so fucking evil that they can behave like that. I hope she suffers for what she did to me. U/Wandies 56 responded. Brother molested myself and my brother. Stole from my parents' money, guns, jewelry, coins. Cheated on and was divorced by wife number 1. Gave up all parental rights to his kids to get out of child support, molested his daughters, got kicked out by his wife, second one. Moved in with my other brother. Broke up that marriage. Marries his still beats his stepkids niece and nephew. Leaves her bankrupt and destitute. Leaves her for her best friend marries her. Tells everyone to get over his behavior, it was in the past. When he died lies about being in Vietnam, working Alaska pipeline, and tried to make everyone feel like he was such a hero. Scumbag. U/Dropson Shiniandran responded. It's not that it was her fault at the time, but my sister used to purposefully step on my feet, bump into me, steal money, and was just a goddamned bully in childhood. The worst thing she did was abandoning animals. She had a kitten, maybe a month old, that she put outside and just abandoned. I never saw it again, so it probably got hit by a car. All of this was caused by my mother, who spoiled my sister, and hated me for the crime of being born. Parental favoritism, even mild cases, breeds resentment and shame for being unloved. This was another level. Mom encouraged fistfights, racism, homophobia, and took pride in hitting her kids. My sister is now bipolar. I'm avoidant, anxiety-ridden, and depressed, and it's all due to parental abuse. U/MS Jessica Jules responded. I grew up with a single mom who worked a lot of long hours, so my sisters and I were left to our own devices a lot. I was the youngest, so my older sisters were supposed to watch out for me, but they had a lot of after-school activities like sports, clubs, friends, etc., so I got left by myself a lot. My sisters decided it would be a good idea to tell me that if the police find out I'm home alone, they will come and arrest me. I spent years, like multiple years, hiding in our basement with all the blinds in the house closed, petrified that the police were going to come take me away. I would have full-on meltdowns if I saw a police car drive by our house, and I was inconsolable. Now I'm an anxiety-ridden adult and it all makes sense, haha. U/deleted responded. K, so not nearly as bad as some of the things on here. I'll list off some things that I remember. 1. Threatened to slit her wrists when I was 8/9-ish, resulting in me going around and hiding all the scissors. 2. Threatening to jump off the deck we had at our old house, was at least 20 feet high. 3. Threatened to punch my mom. 4. Screams at my mother about how she never gets anything she wants. She nearly gets everything she wants. 5. Oh, I forgot to mention all the times she threatened to call CPS to tell them our mother was hitting her. She never has laid a hand on us, or self-harm and go to the neighbors and tell them our mother did it. 6. Threw paint at a wall. 7. Threatened to drop a glass vase on the ground, in front of the family therapist. 8. Threatened to slap my mother. 9. Slams her head against the wall. 10. Threatened to stab our dog. We gave him away, he's happy now. 11. Throws other things besides paint. 12. Threatened to throw something at me, then said I usually say things that would warrant it. 13. Haven't forgotten about the time she was talking about the girl who was mean to her, then said she, mean girl, must have been anorexic, then she, my sister, said she wished she would die painfully. U/Egyptian Devil 78 responded. Well, my oldest brother did attempt to groom one of my sisters and I. He tried it with me when I was an abnormally naive 18-year-old. He had been trying it on my sister since she was 8 years old. So, that takes the cake for an act by a singular sibling. Otherwise, I consider the most fucked up group activity was the way everyone ganged up on myself and the other black sheep sibling. We were essentially second-class citizens, so far as the family was concerned, and it showed in the way we were treated. We were made fun of, picked on, bullied, provoked, etc., and if we fought back in any way it was blamed on us by our siblings. Our parents bought it hook, line, and sinker pretty much every damn time. So my oldest brother got to have his little kingdom in which the black sheep siblings were powerless, and it was condoned by my parents. U/Baby Grandpa 73 responded. In point form, in no particular order, please excuse spelling mistakes, currently drunk, locked me in closets whenever he had to watch me, duct tapes me into the net so him and his friends could practice slap shots with frozen tennis balls. Dislocated my shoulders multiple times to make sure I wouldn't say anything, sexually assaulted me, let his friend sexually assault me, dragged me behind his first car down the alley, forced me to eat rotten food, like with maggots and all. I am terrified of moths, caught a bunch of them, shoved me in the closet and released them all. Many more, but man, I can't right now. Most fucked up part is he's now a successful safety systems designer with a family. My whole family is super proud of him and I'm the black sheep loser in his 30s. Like, the fuck? Maybe all the trauma didn't give me much of a chance. Fuckers. U/deleted responded. My older sister has been a nightmare pretty much her whole life. She constantly lies and then lies more to try and get out of that lie. She doesn't remember what she told one person to the next, so there's multiple versions of the lie. One time, out of nowhere, she just upped and said she won a nice jackpot in the lottery. And she was just going around telling the family this and how she was gonna do this and that with the money. When the money wasn't coming in, she didn't understand why. They gave her a card and the money was supposed to go on it. So, my dad took a half day off work and went with her to the state lottery place. They had no idea who she was or any record of her being there before. Even looked on video and never saw her. Hell, she had just had her youngest son, total of 4 and 3 baby daddies, kids range from 27 to 9, but anyway, the youngest was still little in a car seat and they didn't even have anyone on video coming or going in the building with a car seat at all. For the day before, of, and after she claims she was there. But still, not to give up on her lie and admit she lied, she took it to the next level. She would get off work at like, IDK let's say 6 for example. Say she had a couple of errands to run after work, and wouldn't get home, that's right, still at home with mom and dad, to her baby, who she left with our older parents to take care of, until like 10 or so, and you would never get a straight real answer from her. I could keep going on but, I think this is long enough lol. I just feel bad for my parents. But, they keep coddling her and letting her do it. They have kinda gotten a little more onto her about the past year or two though. But, not as much as they should. U/triggeredbird9 responded. My sister is a drug addict. She did a lot of extremely fucked up shit, but here's one. She is obsessed with this one guy. She stalks him, calls him, talks about marrying him, and for some reason he still chats with her. But sometimes he blocks her, but then he talks to her again. He's really toxic too. He degrades her a lot and she sees no problem. What's worse is that this all still happens, but LVE given up on caring about what she does at this point. There's also the time where she physically went to my school and vandalized it when nobody was there. My school later realized she was my sister, and I got confronted by the counselor with all the teachers knowing what happened. It really wrecked me. My family also had to pay off all that was vandalized. She also let out all my pet birds. We had 14 but now it's 7. She got arrested the other day, and honestly I don't know what to expect anymore. There are worse situations mentioned here, so Elle won't really go full story mode about what she has done. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Leave your own stories down below, I would love to read them. If you would like to see more videos like this, please like and subscribe, it helps me out greatly.